All right, let's talk about something that can feel, well, insanely complicated: the US visa system. It's this giant world of acronyms and forms that can make your head spin. But trust me, we're going to untangle it all today and give you a super simple way to understand it. Let's dive in. What if, and hear me out on this, what if you could get a handle on the entire system just by answering one single question? That's the goal here. We're going to give you the key that basically unlocks the whole thing. And this is it. This is the big choice. Every single visa journey, no matter who you are, starts by picking one of these two doors. Are you planning on a temporary stay, for a specific reason, like a job or school? Or are you looking to make a permanent move and build a life here? Your answer to that one question changes everything. So, if you chose that first door, the temporary stay, you've just walked into the world of non-immigrant visas. And the key is right there in the name. Non-immigrant. It means you don't plan on staying permanently. You're coming for a set amount of time to do something specific. Okay, so let's walk down this first path together. We're going to look at the biggest reasons people come to the US for a little while. And this covers everything from high-tech jobs to university degrees to just, seeing the sights. One of the absolute biggest categories for temporary visas is for work. It makes sense, right? The US economy pulls in talented people from all over the globe for all kinds of jobs. But here's the thing. There isn't just one work visa. Oh no. The system is incredibly specialized. You've got the famous H-1B, which you hear about a lot in the tech industry, but then you have something like the O-1 visa for folks with extraordinary ability. We're talking Nobel Prize winners, Oscar winners. It just goes to show how specific these categories can get. All right, next up is another huge pillar of this temporary path: education. Millions of students and researchers come to the US every year for its universities and exchange programs. And just like with work visas, it's not one size fits all. The F-1 visa is the classic one you'd get if you were going to a US university, but there are also visas for people going to vocational schools or for researchers and interns coming over on J-1 exchange programs. And finally, we've got the category that probably everyone is familiar with, even if you've never thought about it, just coming for a short visit, for business or for fun. This one's pretty straightforward. The B-1 visa is for business stuff, like attending a conference or meeting with clients. The B-2 is for everything else: tourism, visiting your family, or even coming for medical care. Simple, clear, and totally essential for travel. Okay, let's hit rewind and go back to our two doors. What if you'd picked the other one, the permanent move? Well, that puts you on the path to an immigrant visa. The goal here is totally different. It's not about a short trip. It's about becoming a lawful permanent resident and getting that famous green card. So, this second path is a whole different ballgame. It's not about visiting, it's about immigrating. These routes are designed for people who are really looking to put down roots and make the US their permanent home. A huge cornerstone of US immigration policy is the idea of keeping families together. So it's probably no surprise that one of the main ways to get a green card is through a close family member who's already a US citizen or permanent resident. But the system definitely plays favorites. The closest relationships, we're talking spouses, young kids, and parents of US citizens, they get top priority. Other relatives like brothers, sisters, or adult children, they fall into these preference categories, which honestly can often mean waiting in line for years. So just like you can come to work temporarily, you can also be sponsored for permanent residency because of your job skills. This pathway is for people whose expertise is really needed in the US workforce. And the range here is massive. You've got the EB-1 category for those top of their field, extraordinary people, kind of like the O-1 visa we talked about, but it also includes categories like the EB-5, which is for investors who put a lot of money into a US business and create jobs. It's also worth mentioning a pretty unique pathway called the Diversity Visa Lottery. It's exactly what it sounds like: a lottery program that gives a certain number of visas each year to people from countries that don't normally send a lot of immigrants to the US. Okay, so we've seen the two big paths and all the little trails branching off them. But how does somebody actually get one of these visas? Well, even though every visa has its own little quirks, there's a general process, a kind of universal roadmap that most people have to follow. It almost always kicks off with step one, the petition. This is where a sponsor in the US, like your new job or your family member, files a form. Once that gets a thumbs up, you move to step 2, the application, where you fill out your own big form. Step 3 is the big one, the interview at a US consulate. And if everything checks out, you get to step 4, receiving your visa and using it to come to the US. I know, all those form numbers look like alphabet soup, but there's a real logic to it. This chart basically connects what you're doing to the form you'll be seeing. If an employer is sponsoring you for a job, that's the I-129. If your spouse is petitioning for you, that's the I-130. Each number is just a code for a specific step on your journey. So here's the key takeaway. While the nitty-gritty details are going to change a lot between, say, a student visa and a green card for an investor, this basic 4-step dance, petition, application, interview, approval, that's the foundation for almost all of it. Before we wrap this up, there is one more vital path we have to talk about. It kind of operates on its own set of rules outside our temporary versus permanent framework, and this is the path for protection. The US has specific programs for people who literally cannot go back to their home country safely. This includes things like asylum for people who fear persecution, or refugee status for those applying from overseas. There are even special visas for victims of human trafficking or other violent crimes. This is a really critical humanitarian part of the system. So in the end, the visa system isn't just a confusing pile of rules. It's a map. And like any map, it seems overwhelming until you figure out where you're actually trying to go. By just answering that first simple question, temporary stay or permanent move, you've already taken the biggest step. You found your starting point on the map. The only question left is which path is yours.